Is Meghan Markle a bad investment? Because a number of companies have effectively invested in her by allowing her to become an investor in their businesses. And when you look at the portfolio we know about, Cesta Collective, One.Off, and Clevr Blends, you really start to wonder, are these companies actually performing that well? And is Meghan genuinely helping them? Take Cesta Collective, for example. Meghan hasn't been seen wearing any of their products since 2024. Then there's Clevr Blends. Their collaboration with As Ever supposedly sold out incredibly quickly, even though we know the strawberry spread, the matcha, and the flower sprinkles are all still available for purchase. So how exactly did this limited edition bundle sell out when every item included in it can still be bought separately? It really doesn't add up. To me, this is becoming another sign that Meghan Markle's so-called investments may not be performing particularly well. So we're going to dive into all of that today. But if you're new to Hollywood Today, my name is Brittany. I provide compelling royal commentary, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'd absolutely love to have you back. And yes, guys, we're still traveling. There will be plenty of event coverage coming from Belgium, which I am incredibly excited about. You honestly have no idea. I'm really looking forward to sharing all of that with you. We're actually heading to Belgium a bit earlier than originally planned, so I can get situated ahead of all the royal events coming up. So definitely stay tuned for that. We'll also be having our live stream afternoon tea on Friday evening, which should be a lot of fun as well. But right now, we need to talk about bad investments and, quite possibly, a bad investor. Honestly, I think both things can be true. These seem like questionable investments on Meghan Markle's part, and I don't think she's been especially beneficial to any of these businesses. In fact, I don't think companies like Cesta Collective or One.Off are doing particularly well at all. Clevr Blends is a little harder to figure out, so let's talk about what we actually know. Back in 2024, Meghan Markle made quite a splash when she declared, "I'm not a shark, I'm a dolphin investor." Personally, I always thought that was a pretty silly thing to say because people who are highly successful in investing tend to be sharks, and that's not necessarily a negative quality. The idea that being a shark investor is somehow bad and being a dolphin investor is better just seems a little ridiculous to me. At the time, she presented herself as a serious investor, talking about becoming an angel investor in various companies, and the collaboration most closely connected to her investment activity so far is the recent partnership between As Ever and Clevr Blends. Here we have the strawberry matcha set. It includes the strawberry spread, the flower sprinkles, and Clevr Blends matcha product. The strange thing is that every one of these items remains available individually. If you go to As Ever's website, the strawberry spread is still there. The flower sprinkles are still there as well. Then if you visit Clevr Blends, yes, the matcha product is still available too. So how is this bundle completely sold out while every component inside it remains available? I genuinely don't understand this collaboration. From what I can see, customers didn't save any money, and you can literally purchase every item separately right now. And yes, guys, I actually did the math to verify it. Every item is still available individually at essentially the same retail price as the bundle. Which raises another question. What was the purpose of this partnership to begin with? It really doesn't seem like it offered anything unique. I initially assumed the blend itself would be something exclusive or different, but it wasn't. What's even more interesting is that Clevr Blends already sells a strawberry matcha blend, yet that wasn't the version included in this collaboration. And that makes me wonder, why not? If you already have a blend specifically designed around strawberries and matcha, why wouldn't you feature that in a strawberry-themed collection? From a business standpoint, I'm struggling to see the logic behind the entire project. And honestly, I can't help but think the so-called sellout may not be quite what it appears to be. Maybe it's more a case of the product not performing as expected. Again, every item is still available separately at the same retail price. There wasn't even a discount involved. Whether you purchased the matcha from Clevr Blends and the As Ever products directly, you'd pay basically the same amount. In fact, depending on shipping costs, you might even end up spending slightly more. And if you're ordering through Amazon, you may qualify for free shipping anyway. So I keep coming back to the same question. What exactly was the point of this collaboration? Meanwhile, Clevr Blends is taking a bit of a victory lap, saying they can't believe the strawberry matcha set with As Ever has already sold out and thanking their amazing supportive community. But once again, none of this really makes sense to me. There was no discount, no exclusive product, and no obvious added value. There's nothing unique about this bundle at all. Now, I don't think Meghan specifically called it exclusive. Looking back, no, she didn't exactly market it as exclusive or limited edition. But it still leaves me wondering, why do it? What was the actual purpose here? What was the end goal? And did it really sell out? Because if every individual item is still fully stocked and available across the various websites, then can we honestly call it a sellout? Why stop selling the bundle if it was so successful? Why not continue offering it as a package? The whole thing just feels off. It's like the record is skipping. Something simply isn't adding up. That got me thinking more broadly about Meghan Markle's investment portfolio. We know about 3 major investments so far: Clevr Blends, which was the first one she publicly announced, then Cesta Collective, and finally One.Off. And I think it's fair to ask the question, especially because Meghan herself invited this scrutiny by promoting these investments so publicly. Are any of these deals actually generating strong returns? Are these investments really working out? Let's start with Clevr Blends because out of the 3, it may actually be the strongest performer. But even then, this entire situation raised another question for me. I found myself thinking, wait a second, wasn't Clevr Blends supposed to be going into Target? And wasn't that considered a major milestone? What's interesting is that several of you mentioned in the comments that you couldn't find Clevr Blends products at your local Target stores. Now, I didn't have much time to verify it myself, but a number of viewers were saying they couldn't locate it. Honestly, that's not entirely surprising. At this point, there are only a couple of products still listed through Target. Some people responded by saying, well, it's available on Amazon. But guys, everything is available on Amazon. You can practically buy anything on Amazon these days. Clevr Blends even has its own little storefront there. Being on Amazon isn't necessarily a huge accomplishment because virtually anyone can sell on Amazon. Getting into physical retail stores is a completely different story. For a brand like Clevr Blends, shelf space matters. When customers are shopping for matcha, tea, wellness drinks, or similar products, they're browsing aisles and often willing to try something new. Being physically present gives a brand exposure that online listings simply don't provide. So I started digging into the original Target partnership, and I came across an article from January 2024, which was released shortly after Meghan announced her involvement with Clevr Blends. If you remember, she appeared in that promotional video with the company around December 2023. Then this article followed shortly afterward discussing the Target rollout. The article explained that Target was expanding into wellness-focused products and had brought in new super latte brands, including Clevr. What really caught my attention was what Clevr had to do in order to get onto Target shelves. According to the report, Clevr spent the previous 12 months redesigning its packaging to make it more consumer-friendly. Before entering Target, they essentially had to overhaul their entire packaging strategy. That's a massive undertaking. The products launching in Target would feature the new branding first before it was rolled out across the rest of the company. The updated packaging added ingredient information to the front, included images of the finished drinks, listed sugar content, and clarified that the beverages could be prepared either hot or iced. Even more impressive, Clevr reportedly tested the packaging through 7 separate rounds of Target customer feedback, making revisions between each stage. That's a tremendous amount of work just to secure shelf space. This wasn't a case of taking existing products and simply placing them in stores. They had to rethink their branding from the ground up. They revised packaging, gathered customer feedback, and adapted the product presentation multiple times. According to Mendoza, who appears to be one of the leaders at Clevr, the process revealed just how much information consumers weren't understanding from the original packaging. As Mendoza explained, you really can't assume customers are interpreting your product the way you think they are. There were also major differences between the Target versions and the products sold directly by Clevr. The Target packages were smaller, 8 servings instead of 14, and carried a lower retail price of $17.99 compared to $28. That meant additional production costs because they had to create entirely different packaging formats. Clevr made those changes specifically to compete with other coffee and beverage products sitting in the $16 to $19 range within Target's coffee aisle. The company felt it was important to offer something under the $20 threshold. As a result, The Target packages were around 6.8 ounces instead of the larger 12-ounce versions sold elsewhere. Apparently, Target approached Clevr as part of its effort to expand wellness offerings, which made the partnership seem like a significant opportunity. But if we look at Target's website today, there are only two Clevr products showing up: the Mango Green Super Tea and the Strawberry Lemonade Super Tea. That's it. And when you click on those listings, you see messages like "no pickup available," while delivery options require checking availability. In other words, there doesn't seem to be clear evidence that these products are actively stocked in stores. Now, of course, if I change my location settings, maybe different results would appear. But based on what I'm seeing, it looks like Target may have quietly phased Clevr out. To be clear, I can't state that definitively. I'm currently in Europe, so I can't exactly drive around to every local Target and inspect the shelves myself. Although, honestly, once I'm back, I probably will. I may actually check that out once I get back home because I'm genuinely interested to see what's going on. Now, obviously, this isn't definitive proof of anything, but when I look at this strange as-ever collaboration, which, once again, feels very rushed and not particularly well thought out, I can't help but wonder if something else is happening behind the scenes. My suspicion is that Clevr may have lost the Target partnership, and that's significant because, as I mentioned earlier, I think shelf presence matters a lot more than people realize, especially for a product category like this. When shoppers are browsing store aisles looking for tea, matcha, wellness drinks, or coffee alternatives, they're far more likely to discover something new than if they're simply scrolling through a website. Now, every product category is different, of course, but for this type of business, being stocked in stores is a major advantage. And let's remember how much effort Clevr reportedly invested into getting into Target in the first place. I would guess the cost ran well into the six figures once you factor in all the packaging redesigns, branding adjustments, consumer testing, and production changes they had to make specifically to meet Target's requirements. So it's entirely possible that Target tested the products, looked at the sales numbers, and ultimately decided they weren't performing strongly enough. At that point, they clear out the remaining inventory and move on to other brands. Honestly, that's just how retail works. It's an incredibly tough business. Still, it's surprising because I had assumed Clevr was doing reasonably well. Looking at things now, though, it seems like the picture may not be nearly as positive. You could argue that highlighting Clevr through this as-ever collaboration was an attempt to bring additional attention to the brand, maybe attract new investors or generate consumer interest. The narrative becomes, look, Clevr partnered with as-ever, and look, the collection sold out. But again, it's a difficult story to sell because there was nothing truly exclusive involved. Every product remains available separately on the respective websites, and they're all selling at normal retail prices. There wasn't even a bundled discount. That's why, personally, and I want to emphasize this is just my opinion, I don't really view this as a genuine sellout. My guess? Maybe they offered a very small quantity. 50 units? 100? I honestly have no idea. What I do know is that it doesn't feel like a large-scale success story. The circumstances simply don't support that conclusion. And when I step back and look at Meghan Markle's investment portfolio overall, it reinforces my belief that these haven't necessarily been particularly strong investments, nor do they appear to be generating especially impressive returns. Then we have Cesta Collective. I didn't even bother pulling up much information on them because, frankly, there isn't much buzz surrounding the company anymore. If you don't remember, Cesta Collective is the company that works with women in Africa to create portions of its products before completing them with luxury leather detailing. The woven sections of the bags, the craftsmanship you see throughout much of the design, are produced by women in Africa. And that became a major controversy toward the end of 2024. Because whenever Meghan becomes involved with a company, fair or not, additional scrutiny tends to follow. As I recall, it was the Daily Mail that investigated the situation and reported that some of the women involved were earning extremely small amounts, while learning that the finished bags were being sold for hundreds of dollars. In some cases, around $750. Now, obviously, part of that price comes from the premium leather and finishing work. But according to those reports, some of the women felt they were not being compensated fairly for their contributions. That created a serious public relations problem for Cesta Collective. The company positioned itself as ethically conscious and socially responsible, Yet critics argued the reality didn't fully match the marketing. Here are some of the bags Meghan has been seen carrying in the past. I actually went back and checked because I wanted to make sure I remembered correctly. If I'm not mistaken, this was one of the bags she used. And while I was looking through everything, side note, some of the marketing choices are a little strange, but that's beside the point. The larger issue is that there simply isn't any conversation happening around Cesta Collective anymore. The last major attention the company received was when Meghan announced her investment and when the controversy surrounding the women producing the woven portions of the bags surfaced. That's essentially the last time people were talking about the brand. And it's also around the last time Meghan was regularly seen using their products. We haven't really seen her carrying a Cesta Collective bag or wearing anything associated with the company since 2024. That's a long time. We're now approaching nearly 2 years without any visible connection. Maybe it was late 2024 rather than earlier in the year, but regardless, we're talking about a substantial period of time. And it raises the question, why? My personal view is that the company simply isn't generating much momentum. I also think Meghan may have distanced herself somewhat after the controversy gained attention. Again, I don't see large numbers of people rushing to purchase Cesta Collective products. The company may still be doing fine. It may still be profitable, but fashion is an incredibly unforgiving industry, and it would not surprise me at all if one day we suddenly learned the company had folded. I genuinely think that's within the realm of possibility. Then we arrive at Meghan's most recent investment announcement, One.Off. We've discussed this before, but it's worth revisiting. When One.Off launched, the platform debuted with roughly 100 creators already on board. Names reportedly included Hailey Bieber, Bella Hadid, Sophia Richie-Grainge, stylist Danny Michelle, and Alex Cooper from Unwell. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, and let's take another look here for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, I still cannot stand this website. From a design and usability perspective, I think it's poorly put together. But setting that aside, something else jumped out at me. Those high-profile names that helped generate excitement during the launch? From what I can see, many of them don't appear to be there anymore. Let me double-check. Danny Michelle? Nope, not seeing her. And honestly, navigating this website is still every bit as frustrating as I remembered. Alex Cooper? Nope. Bella Hadid? Nope. Kendall Jenner, who I believe was involved at one point? Nope. Hailey Bieber? Also gone. At this stage, it's basically become a platform filled with C-list influencers. For example, Olivia Jade is featured. If you don't remember, she's the daughter of the actress best known as Aunt Becky from Full House. Her mother became involved in the college admissions scandal, was charged, and ultimately served prison time over the fraudulent scheme to get her daughter into college. And that's where things get interesting. Meghan Markle chose to invest in this company and publicly announced that investment after the platform had already lost virtually all of the major celebrity names it launched with. They lost nearly every recognizable creator that helped generate the initial buzz. Now what's left? A collection of far less influential personalities and a website that frankly doesn't appear to have much momentum behind it. So what exactly is happening here? Well, guys, I've said this before and I think it bears repeating. In my opinion, Meghan Markle isn't just a questionable investment herself. She's also a questionable investor. I don't think she has a strong track record when it comes to identifying successful companies. And honestly, I don't think she's demonstrated much success running businesses either. It's almost like one of those situations where someone isn't particularly skilled at the thing they're trying to teach. I don't think she's proven herself as an effective entrepreneur, a successful business leader, or a particularly savvy investor. I just don't see the evidence for it. And when I look at the companies she's chosen to invest in, I get the impression that the decisions are being made based on factors that many investors wouldn't prioritize. It's almost as though the thinking is, well, it's female-founded or female-led, so therefore it must be a good investment. Now, to be clear, there are countless women who run incredibly successful companies. That's not the issue. The issue is that simply being female-led doesn't automatically make a business successful. It doesn't automatically make someone a strong executive, an effective manager, or a talented entrepreneur. At the end of the day, leadership is about results. You have to look beyond the surface-level branding and examine actual performance. And when I do that, I don't think any of these three investments have been especially successful. Looking specifically at Clever Blends, I don't think partnering with Meghan or launching this unusual collaboration has created a particularly positive impression, especially when we're talking about a so-called sold-out collection where every single item remains available for purchase individually right now. Anyone who wants those products can still go buy them. That's why I find the whole situation strange. And honestly, I wonder whether Meghan Markle would prefer this collaboration fade from public attention as quickly as possible. Because when people start looking closely, they begin to notice that there wasn't anything exclusive about it. The details don't seem to match the narrative being presented, and I think more and more people are starting to pick up on that. But those are just my thoughts, guys. Now, I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments below. Do you agree with my assessment? Do you think these investments are struggling? Or do you see the situation differently? Let me know your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be speaking with you again very soon. Bye, guys.